The diplomatic chamber aboard the Valiant Dawn hummed with the subtle vibration of atmospheric processors. Rose Martinez stood at attention, her crisp uniform doing little to calm the nervous energy coursing through her veins. Beside her, Eliam Chen adjusted his translator device for the third time in as many minutes. "Stop fidgeting," Rose whispered through clenched teeth, maintaining her diplomatic smile. "Easy for you to say," Eliam muttered back. "You're not the one who has to translate for the first official contact with the Gentari Empire." The doors irised open with a pneumatic hiss, and the delegation entered. Rose had seen the briefing materials, grainy images captured by long-range probes, but nothing had prepared her for seeing a Gentari in person. The ambassador stood nearly 7 feet tall, her crystalline skin refracting the chamber's light into dancing rainbows across the walls. Forearms moved with liquid grace, and her eyes, all three of them, glowed with an inner luminescence that reminded Rose of bioluminescent deep-sea creatures from Earth's oceans. "Ambassador Kira Eth of the Gentari Empire," the translator announced in a melodious voice. "She who speaks for the Void Council." Captain Morrison stepped forward, offering the traditional human greeting, a handshake. The ambassador regarded the extended hand with what might have been curiosity, then reached out with one of her 4 hands to clasp it gently. "Ambassador, welcome to the Valiant Dawn. I am Captain James Morrison of the United Earth Coalition. This is Rose Martinez, our Chief of Xenobiology, and Eliam Chen, our linguistic specialist." The meeting proceeded according to protocol. Treaties were discussed, trade agreements outlined, territorial boundaries respectfully negotiated. The Gentari, it seemed, had encountered dozens of species across their expansion through the galaxy. They spoke of the Greth, a warrior race that had challenged them for 3 centuries. They mentioned the Polix, masters of quantum engineering. They described the Una, whose philosophical tradition spanned 50,000 years. Humanity, by comparison, had barely left its solar system. Rose watched the ambassador's body language, cataloging every gesture and expression for her xenobiology reports. The Gentari were advanced. Their technology surpassed human engineering by centuries, perhaps millennia. Their ships moved through space using principles that human physicists were only beginning to theorize. Their society had conquered disease, scarcity, and even death itself through consciousness transfer. "Your species is young," Ambassador Kira Eth observed, her voice carrying a note that the translator rendered as gentle condescension. "You have much to learn before you can truly join the galactic community." Captain Morrison maintained his diplomatic composure. "We're eager to learn, Ambassador. Of course, the young always are." Kira Eth's crystalline features shifted into what might have been a smile. "Tell me, what does humanity offer? What makes your species worthy of consideration for a mutual defense pact?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Rose felt Eliam tense beside her. They had prepared for this, of course. The diplomatic team had compiled extensive documentation of human achievements, their art, their science, their rapid technological advancement despite their relative youth as a spacefaring civilization. But Rose knew what the ambassador was really asking. She'd seen it in the field reports and the way other species looked at humans during preliminary contacts. What made humanity special? What could they offer that the galaxy didn't already have in abundance? Captain Morrison began his rehearsed response about human innovation and adaptability, but Rose barely heard him. Her mind was racing, cataloging everything she knew about the species humanity had encountered so far. The Gentari were powerful but rigid in their thinking, bound by traditions that spanned eons. The Greth were warriors who understood only strength. The Polix were so focused on technology they'd forgotten creativity. And humans were survivors, scrappers, fighters who didn't know when to quit. "Stubbornness," Rose said aloud, interrupting the captain mid-sentence. The chamber fell silent. Captain Morrison turned to her, his expression a mixture of shock and horror. Eliam's face had gone pale. Even the ambassador's luminescent eyes seemed to brighten with surprise. Rose's career was over. She'd just torpedoed humanity's most important diplomatic negotiation. But the words were out, and some part of her, the part that had spent years studying humanity's history, its wars and disasters and miraculous comebacks, knew she was right. "I apologize, Captain," she said, not breaking eye contact with the ambassador. "But the answer is stubbornness. Humanity's greatest strength is that we don't know when we're beaten." We look at impossible odds and we say, watch me. We fail, we fall, we lose everything, and then we get back up and try again. We're too stupid or too stubborn to quit. The ambassador's three eyes fixed on Rose with an intensity that made her skin prickle. The chamber remained silent for what felt like an eternity. Your biosphere was dying, Rose continued, committed now to either brilliant success or spectacular failure. Your sun was expanding and you developed consciousness transfer to escape mortality. The Greth faced extinction and became warriors. The Polix confronted scarcity and mastered quantum engineering. Every species finds its solution. And humanity? Kira Eth asked, leaning forward. We found Earth. We didn't modify ourselves or transcend our biology or build generation ships. We just stayed, we adapted. We survived ice ages, plagues, wars, ecological collapse. We've nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times, and each time we've pulled back from the brink. Not because we're smart, though we can be, but because we're too damn stubborn to die. Rose took a breath, her heart pounding. You asked what we offer. We offer allies who won't give up on you when things look hopeless. Partners who'll find a solution even when every logical analysis says there isn't one. We offer the perspective of a species that's survived everything the universe has thrown at us with nothing but determination and duct tape. Eliam made a strangled sound. Captain Morrison looked like he was trying to decide between promoting Rose and throwing her in the brig. Ambassador Kira Eth's crystalline features shifted, light dancing across her face in patterns Rose couldn't interpret. Then impossibly she smiled, an expression so clearly human in its warmth and amusement that it transcended species. I like that, the ambassador said, her voice carrying what the translator rendered as genuine approval. The Gentari have encountered many species, Captain Morrison. We have met those more advanced than ourselves, more numerous, more powerful. But stubbornness, determination in the face of impossible odds, this is rarer than you might think. She stood, all four arms gesturing in what Rose's instincts recognized as respect. Most species, when they reach a certain level of advancement, lose this quality. They become comfortable, complacent. They calculate risks and accept losses. They know when they are beaten. Her eyes fixed on Rose again. But a species that doesn't know when to quit? That fights not because victory is logical, but because surrender is unthinkable. Such allies are precious beyond measure. Captain Morrison found his voice. Ambassador, does this mean? It means, Kireth interrupted, that the Gentari Empire would be honored to establish a mutual defense pact with humanity. Because when the impossible comes, and it always does, eventually, we want the stubborn apes from Earth standing beside us, too foolish to realize they cannot win. She turned back to Rose, and if Rose didn't know better, she'd swear the alien was laughing. Besides, any species that describes their primary engineering tool as duct tape clearly understands the fundamental truth of the universe. Improvisation matters more than perfection. Later, after the treaty was signed and the ambassador had departed, Eliam cornered Rose in the debriefing room. I shouldn't have said it, Rose groaned, her head in her hands. I literally called humanity stupid in front of the most powerful alien empire we've encountered. You called us stubborn, Eliam corrected, grinning. There's a difference, is there? Well, Eliam considered. We did just make humanity's first real allies in the galaxy by insulting ourselves. So maybe stubborn and stupid aren't that far apart after all. Rose laughed despite herself, and somewhere aboard the departing Gentari vessel, Ambassador Kira Eth was composing her report to the Void Council. In it, she would note that humanity's most valuable quality wasn't their technology, or their numbers, or even their rapid advancement. It was their refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible, and in a universe full of ancient species who'd forgotten how to fight for the unlikely, that made the humans very valuable indeed.